Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I actually admire that you can actually be this fake, and like when the TV comes on, how you can just change. You're the scum of the earth.
Don't doubt me, I couldn't do it. The odds that I couldn't do it. Look at me now. Lebanon, headshot, dead. That's it.
What's going on, everyone? We are back with another fight interview this week. Today's special guest, we got former Titan FC Lightweight champion, the Ultimate Fighter 31 contender, McGregor versus Chandler, and active UFC Lightweight, Landon the Lone Wolf Quinones. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the damn video. Let's get into the business, baby. Well, we appreciate you coming on, man, and we don't want to take too much of your time out, so we'll kind of kick things off. If you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what brought you to your journey, and then we can get into to everything else.
Yeah, man, for sure. Basically in my life, man, it's been a lot of ups and downs. You know, I come from a dysfunctional household. Didn't really have a father growing up. Never really had a lot of great examples. I felt like at a lot of points in my life, I didn't really have great direction or a path of what I want to do. I didn't want to go to college. You know, I didn't really have any goals. But luckily, when I was 17, I found MMA. I was just at my house being a degenerate. One of my friends, we were smoking blunts and chilling and bullshitting. And he had just going jiu-jitsu class at Wagner Rocha as a typical white belt. I'll hype up on the sport, watching UFC fights and stuff. And he was showing me different highlights of different fighters while we were hanging out, showing me guys like John Jones, Jose Aldo, Anthony Pettis, and Nick Diaz as well, who's the one that really stood out to me because I felt like his personality was so real. And just seeing where he come from, the rough background and circumstance he came from, I felt like how loved he was and how he was able to make something himself resonated with me. And I felt like I could make a difference in my own life, my family's life, and be able to find something that was for me. So I started training, had my first sparring session, got my ass whooped. You know, after that I kept coming. I felt like I found out a lot about myself, that I was tough enough to do it. Eventually I had my first fight. I got that winning high, and I felt like it was like just a sense of accomplishment I never felt in my life. And I just want to see how far I can take it. And now I'm here in the UFC talking to you fine gentlemen. A lot of big names that fought for Titan FC. Bilal Muhammad was the former Titan FC champion. Rumble Johnson's fought there. Kurt Hollabaugh. A lot of big names that fought in Titan FC and eventually got onto the UFC. So it was an honor to be a champion for them. That's one of the bigger regional shows, along with LFA, CFFC, and all those shows. Actually older than those shows, believe it or not. But unfortunately, with a lot of things that are going on with the personal life of the promoter and things that were going on, it eventually just dissolved actually recently. But it is a big show, and to be outside of the UFC, winning a title in that show, in my opinion, I feel at the time was pretty prestigious and pretty good. You know, I had a pretty good run there. You know, building up. I had one loss that was a split decision to Muhammad Naimov, who's now in the UFC. I don't feel like I lost that fight at all. If you'll rewatch that fight, I got stalled out on the fence a lot, but every time we had any sort of separation, I was doing damage. I cut him open. He broke his hand. It was an all-out war, and it was actually with Dana White there for Dana White's looking for a fight. So that was a tough fight to take it 2-0, but I knew I was up for the challenge. Unfortunately, I took an L there, but I went on to win 3 fights in a row. I eventually was supposed to be booked on Dana White's Contender Series I think it was season 3, week 9, I believe it was, and this was like during peak COVID. And I had tested negative on my Zoom meeting to go to Vegas for filming. And then I got to Vegas, retested again, tested negative. And then I was out there for 5 days. And then we were going to check into the other hotel to do fight week protocol. And unfortunately, I tested positive for COVID on the 3rd test. So 2020 was when that was. And that was November 2020. And I was supposed to be in the UFC or get in the UFC then with a win in that fight. Unfortunately, Natan Levy took my spot, and he ended up getting the contract that night. After that, since the season was almost over, they couldn't rebook me in time once I was cleared from the COVID and from the sickness, right? So they said, okay, you fight February for the belt on Titan FC, and we'll get you signed. You know what I mean? We'll consider that like your fight to get in, right? I was fighting a guy, a tough Hawaiian guy. I forgot his name. Some guy, Nico something. I forgot his name. Real tough Hawaiian guy. Guy was like 10-3, something like that. One of the higher ranked guys in Hawaii. And unfortunately, 2 weeks before that fight, I tore my ACL. So I tore my ACL. I had a hard time getting fights before that Contender Series fight. So from June 2020 up until February, then got injured. So by the time I finally came back, it was about 2 years no fighting. So it it was a really tough time for me. It was really hard. A lot of dark times. Obviously being a fighter is not in the UFC or in the big shows yet. You're not making a lot of money until you're really there, you know?
Sure.
So I made my money off coaching, teaching privates. You know, I do this full time, and I sacrificed the financial stability to be able to pursue the dream full time. And I was broke. I was down on my luck. I was hopping on couches, living with different friends, and like luckily I had people to give me a roof over my head, and I was able to work through it. But eventually I came back, defended won the belt for Titan FC. I was made a lot of false promises by a manager to get on the Contender Series again, but I was on such a long layoff. I guess they weren't able to get me in. I hired a new manager, defended my belt on Titan FC again, and then once I defended it on New Year's, I got on the Ultimate Fighter. So fortunately, I was able. If you guys have followed my journey, I was on Team McGregor. I got to be the most successful fighter probably of all time. You know, congrats to him getting announced for his fight finally.
I know it was kind of we were just talking about it. Like, what a coincidence! We get you on the day after the coaches of his season gets announced, which is crazy that it's just now getting announced. Almost we're talking 8-9 months, almost a year later.
Yeah, crazy. Right? Conor does what you want.
That's awesome, man. Are you where are you training out in Florida right now? Are you at Killcliff?
Nah, not anymore. I mean, I feel like after the Ultimate Fighter, the energy was a little weird having been against Team Chandler. You know, I feel like the Team Chandler guys were talking a lot of shit and saying I was saying things that I wasn't saying. So the energy in the gym kind of shifted, even though I was there a really long time. Go figure. But when you're at gyms like an American Top Team, Killcliff, they're great gyms. You have great training. You have a lot of partners. But in all reality, it's a lot of drama and politics, you know. So
really,
you know, having trained with Conor and seeing the way he is with his small team and how he came up and seeing the way the coaches teach more in a system and it's a lot more drill oriented and it's like technique based. I felt like the big gym is overrated, man. Like all that stuff that you need these big super teams to lie, you know. And I'd rather keep my circle small, my energy protected, and have better coaching and better quality of training rather than just going so hard and fighting all the time and trying to fight for attention and like, you know, dealing with all the politics of the big gym. So I'm kind of doing the small gym thing. My original gym I trained at when I was younger was American Top Team Sunrise, which is why I went to Coconut Creek. But we rebranded. They broke off from American Top Team and rebranded to MMA Science Academy, and we got a small little pro team here in South Florida. So I've been doing that. But I plan on doing my training camp, half of it elsewhere, hopefully in Thailand. I just spent a month in Thailand, so I got to train at Tiger Muay Thai as well as Bang Tao with the Hickman brothers and Brad Riddell and all those guys too, which it was an amazing vibe, amazing energy, good quality of bodies, affordable training, great quality of life over there, cleaner food, recovery available everywhere. And, you know, I feel like going out there to focus for like half of my camp will be a great thing to do. And obviously right now, sadly, I'm 0-2 in the UFC, so it's all or nothing for these next two. So I'm going all the fuck in to get these next dubs.
Let's go. We're ready for it, man. Training in Thailand's got to be fucking amazing. It's a bucket list for me, man.
Bro,
that's just awesome.
Super affordable, super fun. You know, the beach is right there. It's beautiful. Wow. People are so polite. Like, you would love it, bro. It's like definitely the best place I've ever been in my life. And I've been to a decent amount of places so far.
Yeah, man. Congrats on that. Congrats. That's huge, bro.
Yeah, so while you were in I mean, obviously we want to know a little bit about the Ultimate Fighter and you being in the house. Cause I mean, it's gotta be one hell of an experience, probably good and bad. There's gotta be good and bad to it. I want to ask you a question too before we get into it. I'm trying to remember for a call if it was you or not, but I remember there was an altercation in the house at one point between Roosevelt Roberts and someone else. Was it you and him? Yeah. I thought so. Okay. I was thinking about that. Yeah. Cause I was like, I'm pretty sure it was him they are like at the table in the kitchen and you guys got to an altercation. What kind of sparked that up?
Well, to be real, man, like they give us interviews and stuff, and like we're talking our shit, bro. You gotta understand, you're in a house with 16 other dudes that you're gonna fight. Sure. Other dudes you're gonna fight. Even your own teammates. Your teammates win, you have to fight your teammates. So like, it's a team layout, but at the end of the day, everyone's there for themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you're also very stir crazy, and you're in a house with just them, so you're forced to interact. So with my personality, man, if you don't know me, you know I can be a little bit out there, so I can understand why some people don't like me. And I was talking my shit, bro. I was saying I'm gonna beat this guy. I wasn't showing respect like that because these guys are my opponents. You know what I mean? Yeah. And to be real, like I'm also in my mind, I'm a little immature because like I'd never been in that situation. I mean, now I'm in the UFC. I got my feet wet. I'm a lot more experienced. I'm a lot more mature. I've been through a lot more in my life. A lot has gone on in my life since the Ultimate Fighter. So I was being brash. I was being out there, and I was doing it on purpose. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck if you're my friend or whatever. You know, but we're gonna fucking fight. And you know,
Hell
if you
yeah.
didn't know about Roosevelt, Roosevelt comes from the same place I do. Like he's from South
Okay.
Florida. He's a Broward County boy. Like he's not like he might train in Cali and lived in Cali for a while, but he's not a Cali boy. We come from kind of the same place, so the same culture, same kind of thing. But you know, he had just won his fight against Nate. He was super fired up. I congratulated him, and I was talking about how like I was just in a positive mindset, and I was saying some shit. But I guess I annoyed him because like you know the way I was talking and stuff, and I was rubbing him the wrong way. And you know, me and Ro don't got a problem with each other, but we do have different personalities, you know. So we did have a tendency to clash, but there was plenty of times in the house where we got along. You know what I mean? Like I'd give him my little vape pen, he would smoke my little vape pen, and like we would talk shit. Or like he made food, I would eat his food. You know what I mean? I had some fruit, I'd give him some fruit. It wasn't a big deal, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But you know, tempers flare. You know, things happen. You're stir crazy. You're in a house with a bunch of dudes. It's very tense. You know, so but in all reality, no, he was popping his chest out at me. And I kind of laid back because, I mean, we're in the house, bro. You fight in the house. How many past seasons have you seen where that happens? They kick dudes out the house. You know, he's been in the UFC. I haven't been in the UFC. I'm trying to get in right now. So I laid back. Looking back at it, maybe I should have popped my chest back out and been a little more brash. But in all reality, like, we're both in the UFC. Maybe we'll see each other. You know, I got no personal problem with him. But, you know, if we got some unfinished business, I'm with it. You know, so it is what it is.
I would love that, bro. That's a good story right there, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There was in past seasons, man, there was a lot of drinking involved. I didn't see that much this season. Did they cut that out from you guys, or was there drinking going on?
I didn't drink much. I drank a little bit after I lost, but I wasn't really drinking that much. I'm not a big drinker in general, you know. But we had a couple guys that in the house that we went a little crazy. But it was nothing that like expose anybody like getting fucked up and stuff. We were actually one of the better casts they've had. They said we were one of the cleaner ones, and we were one of the more behaved casts they've had on all the seasons. You know what I mean? So, and these are all the guys from I think it's Pilgrim Production or whatever. They've all been working with the Ultimate Fighter since season 1. Like a lot of the staff have been there for a long time, and they said that we were actually a really easy cast to deal with. So I don't think we really had that. But there was plenty of moments that happened that they did not show in the show. I don't know if you guys saw Conor's Instagram today.
Yeah.
He posted in front of the cage. He jumped up and slapped the shit out of Cody Gibson. And I love Cody. Don't get it twisted. I like Cody. Cody's a good dude. You know, I had good talks with Cody. But, like, they said they didn't have that film. And then all of a sudden now you see the fight with Conor and Stein. And Conor's over here posting him, slapping up Team Chandler and shit. He's crazy.
He's so crazy, man.
I mean, not to take away from anything from Team McGregor, because, I mean, obviously we know the success of Team McGregor wasn't what everyone was expecting. And I think that really got on. How did that affect him? I mean, you being on his team, did you see kind of his demeanor change each and every time he had to see, you know, his team, you know, take the L's to the vets?
I mean, you got to understand, like, Conor did help us a lot. And he provided us all the tools to do well. He gave us great coaching when he was there. He gave us great access to his coaches, nutrition. Like, he gave us more gear than all Team Chandler. Like, he took care of us. But in all reality, that's not his fault. And in all reality, he's not our coach. You know what I mean? Like, he was our coach for the Ultimate Fighter. But, like, we're all coming from different places. And we only were there for, like, 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, how much can you really learn in 6 weeks? You're there to work out, stay fresh, learn a couple new things, and you got to go fight, you know? And I feel like ultimately, now that I'm in the UFC and I'm seeing the way the vets were and stuff, I think the experience is a factor, you know? I don't think the skill gap was as big as it looked like on the show.
Agreed.
But experience is a factor. And when you're under those UFC lights and you got those UFC gloves on, it's a whole different thing, you know? So I feel like that was the advantage. I know it did affect him as far as, like, being upset, because obviously to get to the level he's at, you got to be an ultimate competitor, you know? And I'm sure it pissed him off, but at the end of the day, it really wasn't his fault. You know, he did the best he could with us. We had access to John Kavanaugh, Owen Roddy, Sergey Politsky. We had Keane Cowley. Like, we had a great team behind us, you know? Like, we did really the best we could with what it was, and, you know, the results are just, they are what they are, you know?
Definitely, man, definitely. I'm not going to lie, I dig your nickname, the Lone Wolf. How did that come about?
It's kind of just the gym I train at, MMA Science, we call it the Wolf Pack, the pack. And I've been kind of leading the way since I was an amateur. Like, I've kind of made it the furthest out of all our homegrown guys. You know, my coaches coach people from around the world, whether it be Attila Vey, Daniel Strauss. He was Amanda Nunez head coach for years since she started ATT. He's cornered her pretty much all her fights up to the Ronda Rousey fight, and then the last 2 fights with the Aldana fight and the Juliana Pena fight. So He's been with her for a long time, and trained a lot of world-class fighters from all over the place. Ronnie Lawrence, one of my boys, that just recently got cut from the UFC, sadly, but he's a killer. Just a lot of health issues, but yeah, man, I've been around, and also when I was in school, I had a teacher that used to call me that because I would just be sleeping in class. Once I started training and shit, I kind of like distanced myself from a lot of things that other people were doing, and I kind of just like did me, So he would call me that as well. So it kind of just stuck. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna use it for a fight, and I used it for a fight, and I just ran with it. So now it's kind of stuck with me until now.
It's hard, bro. Keep it going, man.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
So jump past your time in TUF. You get out of the TUF house, you continue to train. Out of nowhere, someone backs out of a fight. Next thing you know, short notice, you're getting that call. What was that day like? What was that moment like? How did it feel knowing that, here's my opportunity, I've made it?
Well, man, after TUF, I feel like I learned a lot about myself. I felt like the way I was training was a little off because obviously I got caught in the dumbest submission ever. You know what I mean? Jason Knight's a great submission artist.
Sure.
And I can't knock him for that. But, like, why the fuck have I been training 10 years and I can't defend phase 2 or phase 3 of a triangle choke? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in a triangle choke. My reaction isn't to posture, put him in my lap. Like, my technique was lacking. So that shows that, like, the way I'm training is wrong. Like, even if, like, I have a lot of factors in that fight. Like, I had a grade 2 MCL sprain going into that. I wasn't injured in the fight, but I didn't really get to train leading up to it. So, like, the way I was training, my reaction and my reflexes weren't there. And, like, there's a lot of factors, right? But ultimately, regardless of how fucked up or the circumstances might have been, if I had trained right my whole career or done things a certain way, I should have been able to defend that triangle. Like, I don't care what anyone says. You know what I mean? And I lost in the most embarrassing way, and I felt those lights, and I felt like I needed a lot to work on. So on that time off, during the NDA while the season was airing, I was doing grappling matches. I did a lot of jiu-jitsu. I was trying to get comfortable in competition. I did tournaments. I did super fights. I did multiple things. And I was training consistently. Like, I wasn't, like, training like I had a fight because I feel like when you're in a fight camp and you train at that pace, it's hard to maintain that year-round. You know what I mean? That's how you get injured. That's how you get sick. Because when you got to fight, you're fighting every day. You're pushing. You know what I mean? You're making yourself real uncomfortable, but you're kind of, like, beating yourself up too much to where you're not really improving the skills, right? Sure. So I was training consistently. I was sparring once a week. I was training every day. I was doing strength and conditioning, but I wasn't, like, in fight pace, right? So I had an idea that I had a gut feeling that something was going to happen, because the NDA, we weren't allowed to take any fights or anything. But as soon as our contract ended, I made sure that my weight was low. I made sure that I was ready if something popped up, And I really didn't care what. So I found out that there was a fight pool. And I saw it online. I told my manager, I'm like, yo, like, throw my name in the hat. And if you look at me on paper, it's beautiful because, like, I had a shit-ass performance on TUF. But my shit-ass performance on TUF does not erase the body of work I had, my finish rate, the excitement in my fights. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I had everything that it took to be in the UFC. I just needed that one lesson to make me ready for it. You know what I mean? That one failure. And I remember they had the fight for Nasrat, and I said yes without a doubt. They had a couple of guys' names in the hat. And fortunately, Nasrat picked to fight me. His coaches picked me. And obviously, I'm sure he thought that was going to be a cakewalk, seeing the way I performed in the Ultimate Fighter. You go from fighting in a place with no sound, no walkout music, quiet as fuck, like the little Apex show, to fighting in front of 21,000 fans. If I was a guy that's a UFC vet with 11 UFC fights, which is more UFC fights than I even had pro fights, I would think, damn, this kid's going to fucking fold when he sees his crowd. So I kind of used that against him. He didn't realize the work I had been doing on myself mentally, spiritually, and just, like, technically. And I felt like when that time came, I was ready for it. And, it's crazy because, like, I didn't realize, like, I know I talk my shit in the show, but I felt like I was a decent personality in the show. Like, a lot of people in the street knew who I was. A lot of people favored me. Every time I was in a bar, I felt like my episode was playing more than anyone else's episode.
Hey, I was a fan, bro. I was a fan. Can't lie. We were fans, and that was one big reason we wanted to reach out to you, because, like, we were fans of you on the show. And even your past 2 fights, even the fight you did with Nasrat off short notice, you still put on a good enough show to get you that next fight either way. So yeah, that's huge. And it was UFC 293, right? It was the Strickland card, right?
Yeah. It was crazy. And it was a 14-hour time change on 2 weeks' notice. So I only trained like a week for it, like for him. And then I went out to Australia on 23 hours of travel in the sky. And then after that, I had to adjust to the time change. The fight ended up being in the morning. It was just a crazy experience. And like, I know you watched that fight. That was a wild fucking fight. And in all reality,
Oh yeah.
I feel like if I was in peak shape for that, if I had trained for Nasrat, like he had a 13-week training camp. I trained like 1 week for that fight. I feel like if I had a full training camp for that fight, I could finish him.
I don't disagree at all.
Yeah, I mean, but Nasrat's a good fighter. I'm not knocking him. Nasrat's tough as fuck. Like, he just knocked out Jamie Malarkey. He's fighting Jared Gordon. He's fought Bobby Green, Dan Hooker. Like, he's fought the who's who, and he's still going up. So I got no hate for Nasrat. Nasrat's a good-ass fighter. I just think that with a full camp and the level I've reached now, I think I was better. I could have been better that night, And
Go ahead.
Nah, and I'm happy about that because that fight was the third most strikes landed in a 3-round lightweight fight in the history of the UFC. On a debut, which is pretty fucking sick. I was pretty hyped about that.
Yeah, that's wild. And it goes to show how tough your ass is, man. I mean, throughout your whole career, one, you've never been finished outside of the Ultimate Fighter submission, but you've never been knocked out. Most of your losses have come by decision, and most of your wins have come by finish, by way of knockout. So, I mean, it just goes to show, how tough you are. And then that fun fact that I didn't even know either, that, that was, you said the third most significant strikes landed in a 3-round
lightweight fight.
That's insane, man.
Awesome.
Who do you want to fight next? You got any call outs or anybody you see a good matchup being with?
Man, I would, I'm looking at the timeline, man, and like I'm a little heavy right now and I'm still healing my foot. I got a couple weeks to do that. But man, I'm seeing this Conor card, man, and I would love to fight in that Carter Conor. And in reality, like I'm open to whoever right now. Sadly, I don't know if you watched my fight with Markel Medeiros. Markel's a good dude and it's not his fault, but I won that fucking fight, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you look at that fight, I won on all the stats. I won on takedowns. I won on strikes thrown. I won on strikes landed. You know what I mean? I won on control. I feel like I matched the control time on the cage. Obviously there's mistakes. I'm accountable. Like, there's definitely things I could have done better to get him out of there and leave less doubt. But every media outlet had me winning online, and the UFC is guaranteed to give me another fight, so that's good. Sadly, like I said, because the results have been the way they have the last couple, I don't really have a lot of leverage. But if I could get on that international fight week card and maybe fight my TUF castmate, if I could fight Roe, if I could fight Roe, or maybe somebody else that's coming off a loss like me. Trevor Peake just came off a loss. Natan Levy took my spot on Dana White's Contender Series a couple years back. Like, there's plenty of guys whose names are in the hat that I would love to scrap with. I feel like I got my next training camp situation figured out. So, I'm going to go in there with full conditioning, full confidence, healthy, and, be as ready as possible. Because right now it's do or die. This is my livelihood. And I'm not trying to be no fucking guy that just made it to the UFC. I'm trying to be the champion one day. And regardless of what the circumstances are, I feel like now having my feet wet in the UFC and being comfortable with that in that octagon, I feel like I'm ready to put on the best performances of my career, regardless of what the numbers say and what has happened in the last couple of fights,
Sure.
Definitely,
you're still young, still got a lot of life left in you too. So
yep, absolutely. I got a long career ahead of me.
Hell yeah, you do, man. A lot of those fights make sense too, man. It'd be good for like business as well on the Conor card. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
you and Roe fight would be fucking dirty. Like, I would love to see that.
Yeah, Roe's a beast too, and Roe's coming to fight. So you got a guy like me and Roe going to fight. It'd be a banger. You got two guys coming in there to strike, and it's get our ass to work.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, and there's been a lot of like over the past 2 or 3 UFC cards, a lot of the guys from that TUF 31 have been fighting recently. We just saw Brad Katona. I think Kurt Hollaball had a recent fight. Couple of those guys from that season have just fought. So maybe they do bring back, a few of you guys from that season to fight, on that card with Conor, I think, and Chandler. I feel like that, it's only right. Since you guys didn't get that main event, or they didn't get the main event that they should have gotten like they normally would for those those season finales of The Ultimate Fighter, because normally the main event or in the main card would be the coaches fighting each other, but they didn't get that,
Yeah. Well, usually they do have that finale or whatnot, but we didn't get any finale right now. So I think the pay-per-view would make it right if they put a couples on it. I know Austin Hubbard's booked right now. I'm not looking to fight most of my castmates. I think the only one I really would be more open to fight would be Roe, because we had that beef.
Sure.
But even with Roe, like, I don't got a personal problem with Roe. You know what I mean? Like, me, I'm not calling him out on a personal level. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even now, this isn't considered a call out. It's just a fight I know makes sense, and I'd be open. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in the UFC. He's in the UFC. We had controversy. Conor and Chandler about to fight. Like, what other, like, not many other fights sound that enticing. You know, that sounds pretty
Exactly.
You know what I mean, to put on a show. But also, like I said, Natan Levy would be a good name. Trevor Peek just took an L, so I'll fight Trevor Peek. There's a lot of guys I'll fight. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Trevor Peek's an entertaining fight too, man.
Huh?
Said Trevor Peek's an entertaining fight too. You want a guy that's going to get in there and just bang. That's it.
He gives me that. He's like a more powerful Jason Knight. You know what I mean? To be honest, that's kind of like He's kind of wild, kind of crazy, just a little more powerful, tough as fuck. But in all reality, man, I think I'm too technical and I'll shut him down because not only am I technical, I can also fucking fight too. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
He's scrappy.
But I don't have to be only pretty and like throw jabs and move my feet. I can get down and dirty too. You know what I mean? So
I like that.
I feel like my technique is a lot tighter. My defense is good. Like, you know, my vision is really good. I'm faster. I'm slicker. And I think you get a guy coming at me wild like that, I'll put your fucking lights out. You know? So
let's go.
Hell
Let's go.
yeah.
I would love to see that. Be entertaining as fuck.
Agreed.
Yes, sir. Well, awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on again, dude. It's been a fucking awesome time, man. You can come back whenever you want, man. We're growing by the day. This podcast has done great things lately.